All right, I guess let's go and get started. We're about 2 minutes in, so I think we've got everyone here that's going to join. Sure some others will be filtering in as we're getting going here, but just get started. Of course, you're here hopefully for the leveraging AI and no-code tools to automate your business. We're going to be talking about AI, talking about no-code, talking about automation, talking about different ways we can help you automate your business. So just to kind of get started, let's go through an agenda. First, I'll go through an introduction of myself. We also have a special offer for those of you who stick around for the end of the webinar, through the webinar. I think it'll take probably about 20 to 30 minutes to get through the content that I have. It's not going to be all slides, I promise you. You're not going to just get inundated with slides. We're going to go into a demo here pretty quickly, but I want to go through some introduction, some overview on no code and AI. Everyone's heard tons about AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, so on and so forth. So we're going to do a little bit of an overview on that, and then we're going to get into a sample automation on automating your hiring process, and then follow that up with the Q&A. I'll give you a little tip. The special offer is going to come. How do you get the special offer will come up after we go through the sample automation, the demo, right before the Q&A. So hang tight, and we'll get to that pretty quickly. Also, you can pop your questions for those of you just joining. See some more trickling in here. Feel free to go ahead and type anything in the chat if you're having any issues, if you have any questions for me. I do have things turned off where people can't just pipe in and say whatever, but you can type in the chat, and I've got the chat window open, and we'll hopefully see it if you have a question. All right, I'm going to assume everybody is good to go, so let's go ahead and start cranking through the slides. And so the first slide I have here, I want to just go over the special offer preview that we're going to do. This is for everyone who's attending this webinar. And of course, this webinar, we're going to be sharing the recording after this, and I highly encourage you, if you find this useful, to share it with your friends and colleagues. But basically, for anyone attending this webinar, we are providing some of our paid services for free, just to kind of thank you for being an attendee here. One of those is an automation action plan. So the automation action plan is where we work with you to help identify one aspect of your business that you would like to automate, and then we will sit down with you and go through an action plan on how you would go about building out that automation. So there's kind of two different ways that we work with people in terms of automation, because we are a service-based company. We can do it as a done with you or a done for you type of approach. So this is kind of our done with you package, where basically we offer support on building out action plans for automations you want to perform, processes you want to automate, and then also providing support through our automation mastermind. So again, stay around to the end, and I will talk to you or share with you how you can get signed up for that. About me. So I am the co-founder here at Caffeine Interactive. I've been doing automations for a little over 20 years. You can see our website address there, caffeineinteractive.com. I started in the semiconductor industry and did about 10 years or so in semiconductor. I was what is referred to as a CAD engineer. It does have a little bit to do with AutoCAD, but not really. It's really more about design automation and processes and process automation. So early on in my career, right out of college, I started working in automation, working with our internal customers within a company called Cirrus Logic, based here in Austin, Texas. They also have, they have various locations, but when I started with them, their headquarters were based in California, but I was in their satellite office in Austin. Helped with design automation needs, particularly supporting the internal design engineers within the company, helping them automate the flows they use for building integrated circuits. So my customers were hardware guys, not software guys, and I built software to help accommodate them. Since then, around 2010, 2011, I jumped off doing my own thing, freelancing, started Caffeine Interactive, and I've been doing lots of things related to web and mobile app development, including a lot of business automation. We love working with industrial companies and kind of people who have a lot of back office needs, and helping them automate a lot of that process. All right, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of this. What is no code? I'm going to say right off the bat that I think no code is a very overloaded term. I was having a conversation with ChatGPT last night as I was cramming to get this webinar done. And apparently, ChatGPT thinks everything is no code. I asked it if LinkedIn is considered a no code solution. Yes, LinkedIn is no code. Is HubSpot no code? Yes, HubSpot. Is Salesforce a no code solution? Yes, it is. I think those are platforms that have components of no code built into them. But I think it's a very overloaded term. Essentially, the way I look at no code is platforms that are basically software tools that enable users to build custom applications, websites, and automations without traditional coding expertise or experience. So you do not need to be a coder to be able to use no code. Now, does that mean no code is trivial and super easy? No, you get some pretty complex things with no code. But in general, you do not need to know any software coding. You do not need to know PHP or Python or any of that in order to use a no code platform. That's really great for the layman because you don't need to go hire someone like us to build things. And this is certainly something that we are stressing because a lot of times we have customers that have all kinds of needs, and if we can help our customers handle their own stuff, and then we come in and do the really fun, boring custom work that they need, I think it's a win-win for both sides. We'll talk a little bit. So there's kind of two paradigms. Again, as I said, if anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt. Just type it in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer your question. Let's talk a little bit about no code versus custom development. So if I have a process that let's say it's a manual process, maybe I'm getting data from somewhere and I need to take that data, I need to enter it into a couple other systems, maybe I need to make some decisions on that data to do other things. And I want to automate that process. I realize, I could tell a robot how to do this, and I think they could figure it out if I gave it clear instructions, right? So that's where you decide, okay, well, would I use no code for this, or would I do something more like a custom development approach to this? And so kind of go through what are the differences, the pros and cons between the two. So you can see in this table we have here on the left is the pros and cons for no code, and then on the right is a custom development. Start with the cons because it's kind of a contrast, pros and cons of no code versus custom, and then pros and cons, or cons and pros of no code versus custom. So on the pro side, as I mentioned before, no code, there's no technical skills necessary, whereas custom development, you need a software developer. With no code, it's typically quick deployment. Granted, you can do some pretty complex things with no code that can take several days or even weeks, depending on how complex you're getting. That can all be done by a layman versus custom development, which sometimes just to do something simple like pull some value out of a spreadsheet and stick it in an email and send it off, a very basic automation like that could take, a couple days to a week or more, just because you're having to go integrate with APIs and do all this work to extract that data and, write custom code for that. So it's a lot quicker using no code. It's also, because it's quicker, it's a lot cheaper. You're not paying for a developer. You can pretty much do it yourself. Scalable out of the box. So no code is allows you to immediately scale up and do what you need to do. It works. Tools like Zapier, which we'll talk about here in a second, are very good at being able to provide scalable solutions that will grow with your business. Whereas on the custom dev side, you can actually become more scalable with the custom dev side, but it costs a lot of money. So you see that's a common theme with custom dev work versus no code. It's the biggest thing, probably con for custom dev, is the cost versus no code. As far as maintenance, and this is actually a very important point. If you think about building an application, let's say it's going to go pull something from Google Sheets, for example, or from Gmail. That's going to take a lot of time to build out with custom dev work. And what do you do if that API changes? You have to maintain and support that custom code and constantly make sure you're evolving it with whatever the platform changes that you're integrating with, whatever changes they're experiencing. Whereas with no code and tools like Zapier, they pretty much handle that for you. So there's no migration, like there's, end of life on some API. I need to upgrade that. I've got to go through and upgrade my custom software. No, that kind of comes out of the box with tools like Zapier. That's kind of the pros of no code versus custom. The cons of no code versus custom is that you are still limited in features. With custom, you can build anything, right? With Zapier, you're limited to, they integrate with something like 6,000 plus tools or software packages that they integrate with. If you have something that doesn't integrate with Zapier, then that's something you have to go do some custom development. So you're going to be limited there. Also depend on a third party. So your automations are stored within Zapier. You can't just pull those out and migrate it over to another platform. It's kind of stuck there. Whereas with custom dev work, you own everything. You can do what you want to with it. Performance is an important one. As you'll see in our demo when we walk through this, I'm going to have an email that gets generated. When I go and do the trigger that causes the email to get sent, it can take 2 or 3 minutes for that email to go out. Versus with custom dev, you can set up to go as quickly as you want. It just has to do with the way they've architected tools like Zapier and how it handles processing, these sort of things. Security, with the custom solution, you can store the data wherever you need to in any kind of robust database, whatever you need to do there, versus no code is going, you've got data being accessed and managed on their cloud. And then of course, again, limited customization on the no code side versus unlimited customization on the custom side. Any questions about that? Of course, feel free to ping me if I'm moving too fast or you want me to speed it up a little bit. I promise you, we're not going to sit on slides the whole time, so we're going to get off of these slides pretty quickly. Okay. Now for some examples of what we're calling no-code platforms. So you've heard me mention already Zapier a couple times. That is probably my favorite no-code platform that me and everyone in my company lives and breathes every day. There's a competitor to Zapier called Make, which is a little bit cheaper, not quite as supportive of as many systems as Zapier is. But those are kind of the two big go-tos that we tend to look at, and mostly Zapier. If you want to get into web and mobile app dev, there's also tools like Bubble or Adalo, which will help you build rapidly build, quickly scale a web or mobile app. Again, keep in mind that these are limited, so you can do some basic things. When you start to get too complex, it can get pretty crazy. There's database tools like Airtable or Retool. On the website side, probably many of you are familiar. There's tools like Wix and Squarespace where you can build a website on your own without having to hire a developer. Then on the e-commerce side, there's tools like Shopify and BigCommerce that are great for e-commerce platforms. As I mentioned before, no code is a very overloaded term because people call a lot of things no code, and it's not completely incorrect, but you got to draw a line somewhere. All right, quickly, I want to talk about automation and AI because that's going to be relevant to the demo we're going to be doing. So with automation and AI, we're combining basically, AI and no code can be a great combo if used together. For example, if you're working in a no code platform, you can lean on AI to help with support when it comes to building out your no code processes and workflows. And I'll kind of walk through that hopefully in the demo, show you how I use ChatGPT occasionally to help me with issues related to Zapier or integrations I'm trying to do. As well as if you have a process you want to automate, you can go into ChatGPT or any of these AI solutions and describe the process that you have and how you want to automate it, and mention that you have access to Zapier or Make or whatever platforms you're using. And they can actually walk you through how to use that. I was using this the other day because I was trying to set up a new ad campaign for Google Ads, and I am not the biggest expert when it comes to utilizing Google Ads. I understand it, at a pretty decent level, but some of the more complex things I was wanting to do, I didn't really understand how to do. So I went to ChatGPT and it helped walk me through that and told me, click here and type this in and do this. And it just kind of walked me through. It was like having my own little personal assistant to help me with that. When you think about AI solutions, there are tons of them, more and more coming online every day. The ones that kind of have been on our radar pretty heavily are ChatGPT, which is the OpenAI solution, Gemini, which is from Google, Copilot, which is Microsoft solution, Claude, which not sure, but it's a competitor with the other three. Claude is really good with content. I've used it and I've had limited success with it, but I know a lot of people who are really involved in AI really praise Claude for being able to help with copywriting. Seems to be a little more creative than the other platforms, but a lot of these, in order to get the maximum benefit out of, you've got to, subscribe. They're usually about $20 a month. I have a ChatGPT subscription that I use all the time. Again, paying about $20 a month. A couple others are Midjourney and Ideogram, which are great for generating images. You can literally go into a tool like Ideogram. Now, I'd love to demo this. We don't have time, but you go to a tool like Ideogram. If you've never messed with it before, you can actually describe something that you want it to show you. You can say, show me a business person in a suit sitting at a desk with a futuristic looking laptop sitting in front of them and a cup of coffee, and it'll literally generate that on the fly. It'll generate like 4 different images. You can select which one you want. Really cool stuff. And most of you probably seen some of the videos on some of the things with generating images, and especially the video getting a little bit scary these days and what kind of stuff is going on. All right. So I told you we weren't going to spend too long on slides. So now we're ready to go through a live demo. Does anybody have any questions for me? How's the pace of this? Everyone feeling good? If you can, just pop a yes or thumbs up in the chat. Just let me know that you're doing okay and comfortable with the speed we're going. Okay, I got a note. Someone saying audio is wonky. Occasionally, pace is good. Okay, cool. I'm going to keep moving forward then. Hopefully, if anyone else is having audio issues or having problems hearing me, let me know if it's something on my side. I did not hook up I've got a fancy Yeti mic. I typically use when I'm recording these, and I forgot to hook it up. Actually, the cord that plugs in to a mic, my daughter did something with the cord, and I can't find it. So I'm using my headset here that you see I've got in my ear, wired headset. Okay, so let's talk about the live demo. I'm going to explain what we're going to do before I walk through this demo. So, I wanted to not only do an introduction to AI and no code and automation, but then also go through a walkthrough of a process that we've automated. We actually have a much more automated process we use for hiring, but this one is kind of an abridged version of it to show you some of the basics. We'll actually go through and build a Zap within Zapier so you can see how that works. It's actually pretty cool. And they just fairly recently, I think, added some support for Copilot, which is pretty wild, which I'll show you here in a second. Okay, so with this walkthrough, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through and we're going to create a prospect profile using ChatGPT. That basically what we're trying to do is build a prospect list within LinkedIn. And I have a subscription to Sales Navigator. If you don't have Sales Navigator, there's other ways around this, other tools you can use to build prospect lists. But essentially, I'm using a Sales Navigator and I want to build a prospect list. And so I'm going to use ChatGPT to help me come up with the filters that I need for Sales Navigator, then go into Sales Navigator, create that prospect list, and then do outreach using some automation tools within LinkedIn. Going to be a huge disclaimer on this when I go through this, and I'll explain a little bit more when we get to that step, some risks that you need to be aware of. And then we're going to go through a pre-qualification process of the candidates using Google Forms. We're going to ask each candidate that we prospect to who responds, we're going to send them a message with a link to a Google form for them to fill out that asks them questions about their expertise, rating themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 on different disciplines. And then if they pass that pre-qualification, we're going to automatically send out a link to an interview through Zapier. So again, ChatGPT to build a prospect list, plug that into Sales or to build the filters to come up with the filters we need, plug that into Sales Navigator to get the list, extract that list through an automation tool, start prospecting to that list through LinkedIn. As they accept we're going to basically sending them a connection request. If they accept, we're going to send them a link to a Google form they go and fill out. If they fill out that form and the values they put into that form match our pre-qualification threshold, then we will send them a link to an interview through Calendly. All right, so let me stop sharing for just a second and switch over to another screen here. This is going to be a little bit, I think I can do this. Let's see. Second, share screen. I think I'm going to share my entire screen. Okay, we've got a new thing showing here. Let's see, where do I want to go? Okay, so let me start with my browser. Let's see. Sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around here. Okay, so let's say, as I mentioned, in the slides, the first thing I want to do is go through the building out a list of prospects to prospect to. And so I'm logged in here to ChatGPT. Most of you probably played with ChatGPT at least a little bit. You basically enter in prompts. From those prompts, ChatGPT will respond to you. So I've got some pre-canned prompts here I'm going to copy over. And I am a computer nerd, so I use VI for my text editor. So apologize. But here's the prompt that I'm going to give ChatGPT. Basically telling ChatGPT. So in my case, I'm going to use this from the perspective of Caffeine Interactive when we're hiring a developer. So maybe I'm looking for a WordPress developer. So I'm telling ChatGPT I want to hire a WordPress developer who is also good with PHP and JavaScript. And hopefully you all can read this. It may be a little small on your screens, but I'll read everything out to you. So maybe I can make it a little bigger. Here we go. I want to hire a WordPress developer who is also good with PHP and JavaScript. And I put examples like jQuery, Vue, etc. These are JavaScript platforms. This individual will be responsible for building and maintaining WordPress websites and occasionally custom small apps written in PHP and Vue. They should have experience with software management tools like Git and comfortable in a Linux environment with doing things like deployments to remote web servers and managing DNS records. The individual I'd like to hire should reside in the Austin area. I'm using Sales Navigator to locate prospects. Can you tell me what filters I should set in order to obtain a list of prospects I can contact? Enter. ChatGPT is going to think, and it's going to come back. It should already know the answer because I've asked it multiple times now as I ran through this demo ahead of time. But see, it's going to come in here and it's going to tell me exactly how to do things within Sales Navigator. And this is awesome because if you haven't used, if let's say you went and got a Sales Navigator subscription today, you're like, this is a really cool flow. I want to start automating my hiring process. I'm going to go, never played with Sales Navigator. I'm going to get a subscription right now and start using it with my hiring. Well, you don't even need to know how to use Sales Navigator. This is going to tell you how to do it. Granted, Sales Navigator is not an extremely difficult tool to use, but still, it's nice to know that you've got this kind of virtual assistant to help you. So I'm not going to go through this whole thing and read it line by line, but basically tells you, here's the filters you can use for Sales Navigator. Set the geography, set certain titles that you want to search for. These are all lead filters you can set, so it'll then go through Sales Navigator, basically searches all of LinkedIn's entire database and pulls back all the prospects that match that. What industry they're in, you can set years of experience. And these are all recommendations for ChatGPT. I don't have to do all these, right? Like I might decide I want to put all these in, but I don't really care about the years of experience. I'm going to leave that off. And so I'm going to just skip that. I'm not going to put that in. Or I don't care about seniority level, or maybe I look at the results and I think I'm not getting enough results back from the filter, so I decided to remove a few. So we'll kind of play with that and you'll see how that works. But I can also set function, and then I think this is pretty important, the keywords. This is basically looking at profiles and seeing if they have keyword like WordPress that shows up or PHP. This would be either skills that they have, things they've done before, or maybe keywords that show up within their profile. And then, of course, like I said, it goes through and tells you exactly how to go do this, right? So the steps to do it, go into Sales Navigator, navigate the lead filters section and start applying these filters, and it tells you how to do that. So fortunately, I took the time to go ahead and set that up ahead of time so we don't have to do that. Let's see, I'll show you a couple examples. So this is Sales Navigator. As you can see here, I've got some filters already set up here. I've got the current job title. I've got keyword search terms. I've got geography set. I've got years of experience set. And based on that, as you can see from the results here, I've got 301 results. These are all people I could then go and start prospecting to. These are people who already have, most likely already have jobs, already employed, that I can go and prospect to and try to recruit to Caffeine. Now, what's the beauty of that? I mean, this is really a focus on no code and automation AI, but I really like this example because it's something that really provided a lot of value for us. It wasn't just automating a process. It opened up the door to a way to recruit that we didn't have before. You think about traditional recruiting or traditional hiring, you go into a job board, posting job, and waiting for the resumes to trickle in, or in some cases flood in, depending on what you're trying to hire for. And those resumes can be all over the place in terms of qualifications and how much they match what you're looking for. I might put out a job for WordPress developer and I get people who are applying who did C++ back in college or something, and I have to filter through those for the ones who actually have the experience. And so there's definitely been a lot of companies that have focused on how to pre-qual resumes using AI to scan resumes for certain search terms before it passes that filter to go on to an interview process. I heard a cool little hack kind of from the perspective of the person trying to be hired. When you send a resume, let's say you send like a Word doc, actually copying and pasting the job description into the resume and changing it to white text and making it the smallest font possible. So when like a hiring company scans the resume, they see those keywords from the job description in your resume, even though it's not visible to human because the text color is the same as the background color being white. So there's some interesting things that are going on. People are trying to hack the system and get around it. And so that's one way to do it, is go post jobs and then use AI and tools like that to try to pare down your list, because sometimes these companies put out job postings and get inundated with hundreds of resumes. But our approach was slightly different. We're going out and finding people, like I said, who already have jobs, people with certain skill sets, and actually actively recruiting them, which I think you can argue whether or not that provides a better pool of applicants, but it's a process we've used very successfully to hire developers within Caffeine Interactive. So as you can see here, I've got those set up. Now, question is, well, how do I extract these out? So this is where the big disclaimer came. I mentioned earlier there was going to be a part of this program where I was going to get really specific about disclaimers and some concerns about things we're doing. So I have a tool here. This tool is called Linked Helper. I'm going to tell you, you should not use this tool. Do not use this tool. Be very careful if you decide to use it. Do not come blaming me if you do something that breaks your LinkedIn account. LinkedIn is very specific about not wanting people using automation tools within their platform. Using automation tools to scrape data out of their platform or to automate sending out connection requests is a big no-no on LinkedIn. I will say that well, I'm not going to say we've used it. We may or may not have used this from time to time within Caffeine, very sparingly. We are a small company. We're not trying to hire hundreds of people. It's one-off hires here and there. And tools like Linked Helper, they do follow pretty closely the policies of a company like LinkedIn to know what's flagging their filters in terms of people doing things like this. And so they do a lot of things to try to avoid that. But again, it would be super easy to use a tool like this and burn out your LinkedIn account. Basically, what that means is they would essentially close your LinkedIn account because they detected any kind of tool like this being used. So you need to be super, super careful if you use this. There's certainly other ways to do this. You could, if you had a tool like Apollo, which is an outbound prospecting tool for sending outbound emails, they have integrations with LinkedIn through a Chrome browser plugin where you could go in and select the different candidates that you wanted to add to a campaign and actually save them into Apollo, and it would look up their information from there, get their email addresses to email them or whatever. So this isn't the only way you can do this. This is the way I wanted to demonstrate because I think it's kind of a cool, interesting thing. And Linked Helper, even though it's a tool that kind of violates LinkedIn's terms and conditions, it is actually what I would call a no-code tool. I'm just looking at the time right now, seeing it's almost 30 past the hour. So I'm going to try to pick up the pace a little bit so we get through things and have plenty of time for Q&A. Anyways, so by using this tool, I can come in and I put, some similar filters in here, and I can come in here and I can say, and I'm not going to try to turn this into a tutorial on how to use this tool. There's plenty of videos, and if you were ever interested in using this, which again, big disclaimer, be careful using it. You can follow along with their tutorials to see how to do it. But I can actually click here, start collecting. It'll start going through and scraping all of this and putting it into a queue. And now what happens with Linked Helper is then, well, probably it's better if I just show you what a campaign looks like. So I've set up a campaign here. I've got a queue of 301 contacts. These are all the people that I've added from LinkedIn that I want to go prospect to for about a position at Caffeine. Let's see, where did I go back to? And if you've ever used a CRM tool or marketing automation tool like ClickFunnels or like marketing automation through HubSpot or Keep or Salesforce, this is basically a flow chart. So, and again, it's okay if you don't understand this. I'm going to go through this pretty quick so we can move on to the other parts, which is like doing the Zapier integrations. But this, I could come in here and I can say, okay, I want to the first step of, and this is all automatically built by LinkedIn or by Linked Helper. This is a default campaign that they set up for us. So I can come in and say, invite second, third level contacts. And what's going to do is it's going to go out and send to all those contacts I had in the queue. It's going to send them a message. It's going to say, hello, Jim or whoever. I'm one of the owners of Caffeine Interactive. We're currently looking for WordPress and PHP developers. We offer remote work, flexible hours, and a competitive salary. Interested in hearing more. Cheers. If that person, so that's the message is going to get sent out. Then there's a filter. It's going to check to see if they respond. If they respond and accept my connection request, then immediately I can set delays on this or time it or whatever. But basically, as soon as and this is probably way hard to read, I'm sure. So I'll just read it for you. After they accept a connection request, it's going to come back and say, hi, Jim, thank you for accepting my invitation. I'd like to schedule a virtual interview, but before we get started, would you mind filling out the following Google form? This will help expedite the virtual interview. Here's a link, and there's a link to a Google form. Thanks, Dustin. And so picture this, if you're the prospect sitting there, you get a LinkedIn connection request from me saying, I'm looking to hire. Are you interested? I accept the connection request. A few minutes later, a couple hours later, whatever, I get a message back on LinkedIn saying, I'd like to schedule a virtual interview, but first, can you fill out this form just to help us out? So I can click that link and go fill out the form. And now we're getting the automation side of things, the rest of the automation, right? Which is the Zapier integration and sending out emails and and all that. So that's what I'll walk through next. But this shows kind of how Linked Helper helps us with that so that we can do all of our prospecting directly in Sales Navigator, and then send out emails, connection requests, and prospect to people. And I do think this is a little better use case with the tool like Linked Helper than, say, soliciting people for work or services or products or whatever. This is actually, prospecting to people about jobs, which, maybe is a little more wholesome than spamming people with offers and that sort of thing. But uh, let you decide. Okay, so that's Linked Helper. Any questions on that? Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing now, and I'm gonna go back to sharing my browser window. Okay, so next step after we go through Linked Helper, they're gonna get a message to go fill out a Google form. Here's a Google form I put together. So this is just a really simple Google form. You can see here's the actual form where I was building it. Google Forms is a very powerful tool to use if you haven't used it. And just basically go in and set different, put in text fields, put in, things like if you want to ask for first name, you can specify the question and then specify what kind of answer you want them to give, that sort of thing. You can have things like this where it's a scale of 1 to 10, allow people to rate themselves. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm actually going to fill out this form. So it gives a description about the job. So I'm the candidate. I come in. Okay. I'm going to use a fake email address here. Let's type this in real quick. Okay, so I get in here to WordPress experience. I'm rating myself on the scale of 1 to 10. 1 being no experience, 10 being advanced guru. I'm not answering this accurately. I'm just putting in some dummy values here. So just whatever. I'm gonna do everything above a grade of 5, and there's a reason for that. Actually, I didn't even do the last one's grade of 5. Submit. All right. Now that has been submitted. Now, if you notice, this is a spreadsheet that's attached to the Google Form. So if you've used Google Forms, you may or may not be familiar with this, but there is when you're building your form, there's a way to go view your responses in Google Sheets, which is this link right here, which takes me over to this Google Sheet. And this is the new entry I just put in. So it's 10:34 local time for me because I'm Central Time here in Texas. You can see there's the email address I put in. Here's all my scores. And one of the interesting things that I have in here is this is about the only coding that I've done, which this is a pretty complex formula, but I got this from ChatGPT. So don't worry. Basically told ChatGPT that I've got a form that has these columns, or I've got a spreadsheet that has these columns, and I want it to basically calculate a value of true or false based on the values that are given here. And so what I'm doing here is I'm basically saying, okay, if someone comes in and applies for a job, I only want to consider people who give a grade of 5 or higher basically for columns D through I. So for example, you look here, this row, let me make this larger because probably, again, hard to see. So row 8 here, you can see that it's got this calculated value. It's set to false. It's set to false because PHP experience was set to 4, which is under a 5. And so because it's under a 5, it gets set to false. This person does not pass my pre-qualification. The form I just filled out, I made sure everything was above a 5. And so you can see here, it was set to true. And so ideally, what that should do, if we're lucky, is that should generate an email. And a second, I'm going to quit sharing for just a minute. Okay, and I did just get the interview link, and I'm going to walk you through Zapier here real quickly and show you how we set up the Zap for that. If I come back here, sorry, a little bit of craziness trying to share screens. Get back to share my screen. Here is the email I received and this was automatically generated through the process automation that we built within Zapier. I'll show you that workflow in a second. Basically, it's sending out an email that says, thanks for answering your questionnaire. We're now ready to proceed with the interview. They don't know that we were basing that on their answers to those questions, and sends them a link to my Calendly link, one that we have for setting up an interview. Let's talk about how that worked though, because there's a lot going on here. So people are coming in, they're filling out a form. Um, it's dumping data into the spreadsheet when they fill out that form. And based on the answers in that spreadsheet, it's generating an email. Well, how is it doing that? It's all being done through Zapier. So I'm going to step back here to Zapier and kind of walk through how Zapier works. Okay. So this is what you get when you come into Zapier. And I feel like I'm rushing through this way too quick. This could have really probably been broken out into 2 or 3 webinars, but then it would have been a lot longer. So let me see if I can make the best of this and make it digestible for you all. So here's Zapier. You can organize your build what are called zaps. And so if I want to create a new zap, which is basically a new automation, I just come here and click create zaps. Now it asks me, this is really cool. It's kind of a new feature where they've integrated with Microsoft Copilot. I can basically tell it what I want to automate, and it'll give me the options. Or it'll help me build out the automation that I need on the fly. So I'm going to type in a prompt here real quick that I've already created. So I'm basically telling it I have a Google Sheet. When a new row is added, I want to send an email, but only if column L has a Boolean value of true. So again, you go back and look at the sheet. Here's a sheet, column L, calculated value. I only want to send it if this comes out to a true, right? So let's go back to the Zap. Hit submit. And hopefully you can see this. Copilot is saying it's working on it. So here's the prompt that I gave it right here. It's going to come back and it says, here's your Zap outline. So it's going to actually tell me how I do this. I want to create a trigger. Then I want to create this little symbol signifies a filter. I'm going to create a filter. So I have a trigger based on when a spreadsheet is added to a new spreadsheet, row is added to a spreadsheet, a filter that only continues if that one column is true. And then if it does pass that filter, it's going to send an outbound email via Zapier. And I can also say add all steps to Zap. And it automatically updates my flow chart to include these. Now I can come in here, and this is where you start setting up each of these steps. So we see there's 3 steps. This is going to be if a new spreadsheet row is added in Google Sheets, I've got to choose an account. So I'm going to click choose. I've already got my account plugged in here for Google Sheets, so I can select that. These are things, a little extra setup if you haven't connected your account yet, but it's pretty simple. It's all kind of UI based to set all these things up. So I've got that set up. I can specify my trigger. I'm going to say, first I specify the spreadsheet I want to use. So this is looking at Google Drive, and it sees I've got a Google Sheet called Automation Webinar Prequal Hire Form. I'm going to select that spreadsheet. Within that spreadsheet, it's going to ask me for which worksheet I want to use, which is going to be the form responses one. Again, that corresponds to this. We only have one sheet on this spreadsheet, so that's where you're specifying that. If I hit continue, and then I can test my trigger. You can see it's why it's not coming back with any values here. Calculated value. Oh, it's looking at the rows at the bottom of the spreadsheet. That's just a complication with, so we'll ignore that for right now. It has to do with the fact that the spreadsheet, I have pre-calculated this calculated value all the way down here. And so it's all the way down to like row 107. These don't have entries yet. The Google form hasn't, we haven't had 105 people apply yet. So these rows are all empty. But when Zapier looks at this, it goes to the very end and looks at the last row and it sees that it's empty. So when I look at this, why it's coming back and showing all these things blank, it doesn't matter. So I can say continue with selected record. Now I'm gonna get in and set my filter. So, right, I want to do a filter with Zapier and hit continue. I can choose a field. So I can come down here and I can say, I want to look at the calculated value. And I'm going to filter. So this is filtering to only continue. So I'm going to filter out the ones that are false. So I'm only going to allow the ones to go through that are true. So look at this calculated value column within the row. If it's true, we're going to continue. And I think it may claim that it failed. Yeah, see, it says use app and not continued because it's looking at row 107 or whatever it was that I selected, and it sees that value is false. But that's okay, because we do want some to fail. And then we go to next, and now it's time to send the email. So I can come in here, I can click continue, I can specify who I want to send it to. And I can select the actual, so remember from our spreadsheet over here, back up here at the top, there's an email address column. So this is where I put, you can see I was testing this like crazy before the webinar. But we're going to extract the email address from there. So I can select from the spreadsheet we want to use for the to address, we're going to use the email address. Subject, I'm just going to make up some data. I'm not going to, I've already got this whole flow built out already. You know, I can say, hello, here's the link to the interview, whatever, right? Can also, I can add attachments. I can set the from name, reply to, CC, BCC, some other things, read receipts, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm gonna go ahead and cancel all this. I don't want to keep going with this app because I already have one built. So let me go ahead and I'm just going to delete it because I don't really need to keep this around. But you can see that's basically how you build these apps. And then you go in, once you have it built, you can go and reconfigure it, tweak it, add new steps, add more complexity to it if you want to. This is a really basic app that you can see just by using AI that's built into Zapier, using Copilot, it helped me figure out what steps I needed. Now I can come in, I could add additional steps. Like if I wanted to do something else, like maybe I wanted to store data to a table, or I want to do something. We've got some other things we integrate, like maybe I want to create a Zoom meeting or do something within Microsoft Excel. I can do all of that directly from here in Zapier, adding additional steps. But I'm not going to go too deep into that. Kind of cover the basics on what Zapier does. Let's see. Go back, say discard draft. Leave sites. And this is actually the finished Zap that I've already built. So it's very similar. I think I think the one I just built said if there's a new row added, this is a new or updated row, and then got the filter and sending the email and everything else. And so that's basically it. And of course, there's more we could do beyond this. Like, if I had time, I probably would have set this up to maybe do something with ChatGPT, because Zapier does integrate with tools like ChatGPT. So I could actually pass information from the user over to ChatGPT and have ChatGPT give me responses. Maybe I want, have ChatGPT analyze their resume and look at the answers to their questions and then come back to me and tell me, something like maybe help me make a decision on whether I should proceed with interviewing this individual or not. That'd be an example of how I could maybe use AI. And the nice thing about AI is when you're chatting with a tool like ChatGPT, where did it go? I had ChatGPT up here somewhere. Did I lose it? Oh, it's right here. I have an ongoing conversation. I can always come back to this conversation at any time. So if you think about that from like a hiring perspective, I could train ChatGPT on what kind of attributes I'm looking for in a hire, what kind of things, like what kind of skill sets are very, get me very excited about that particular hire, what kind of skill sets are kind of deal breakers, what kind of words or concepts would make it a deal breaker. Like maybe I'm looking for an individual contributor and I'm worried about hiring anyone who's been a manager in the past or who's currently a manager because, it implies they haven't been doing individual contribution work, and I'm worried they've been spending too much time managing and not enough time doing development. I could say, well, I don't want to hire anyone who has been a manager in the last 2 years. I could train that with ChatGPT. So then when it reviews that resume, reviews their entries, it could come back and say, yeah, this would be a no hire, would not pass qualification because they were a manager in last year. That's a really bad example. I don't know why I would ever say I'm not going to hire someone because they've been a manager in the past and showed some leadership discipline. But I'm just using that as an example of how you can train ChatGPT. Okay, let's see. So let me go back to our slides because I think that's the last thing, and then we're going to get into Q&A and start thinking about wrapping this up. And of course, want to go through the offer that we were discussing. So let me get back. Let's see, stop share. Okay. Share screen. All right, back to the presentation. Okay, so we walked through this demo. I think covered everything here. Any questions on that? Anyone have any thoughts, comments, questions? Actually, we're going to get to Q&A in just a second. So maybe start thinking of your questions and start posting them if you have any. And then we will get to those in just a second. Okay, so real quick, just some administrative stuff. We're about 48 minutes past the hour, a little bit over from what I expected to. Apologize for that. Next steps, we're going to be sharing a recording of this webinar, so you'll all be able to see the webinar and share with others if you so desire. Now for the special offer. We mentioned this earlier. Something, this is a paid service we provide to our customers related to AI and automation and no code, but we're offering it free on a limited basis for anyone who's interested. So basically what we do is, again, to go over what I mentioned before early on in the webinar, we're going to be providing you with a free automation action plan. So this basically involves taking a process within your business that you will help you identify a process that you think is manual and maybe would lend itself well to automation. Then we'll discuss that process and talk about brainstorm ways to make that process automated and basically build out an action plan for you for how you can go and implement automation for this process yourself. This is, again, we provide two different types of services when it comes to this sort of thing, a done with you and a done for you. This would be more of the done with you kind of approach, where you're basically doing the work, but we are your expert there to help you out and help you get the process started with the automation action plan. And then from there, you can go and start implementing that action plan using Zapier or whatever your no code or AI or automation tools of choice are. And we provide a 30-day trial on our automation mastermind where you have the ability to come and chat with us about your specific needs, any questions you may have, and we'll help answer your questions. Again, it's not a done for you service, it's a done with you. So we're not necessarily going to get in and help you directly with your Zaps, but if you have questions about like, how do I add this filter? How do I do this certain thing? You can ping us and we'll walk through it with you and help you figure out how to get past any sticking points that you have. So the way to get this offer is within basically the next 24 hours or so. Said the offer expires on Friday, 5/17 at midnight. I promise you, we are a very automated company, but we do not automate that. If you email me 5/18, morning of 5/18, you'll probably still be able to get in, but this is just basically not something we're gonna leave open indefinitely. So if you're interested in this free offer, basically email us. Try to get to us by the end of the day tomorrow, but send us an email with the subject webinar offer 5/16, and then we'll send you instructions on how to get started with your action plan. And then, from the action plan, once we have your action plan together, we'll start the 30-day trial. So 30-day trial doesn't start right away. It's when your action plan gets created is when the 30-day trial starts. Any questions on that? Okay, we're cruising right along. So now we're in the Q&A session of this. So again, here's those instructions. I'll leave these instructions up so you can, if you're trying to grab that, but we are in the Q&A mode now. So if anyone has any particular questions, feel free to share. I'm gonna stop sharing for just 1 second. Okay, it looks like okay, here's a question. Let's see. We have a homegrown system for storing certain types of data. How do you handle a situation where one of the systems you're using isn't supported by something like Zapier? Okay, make sure I understand. Okay, so you have a homegrown system. Okay. If you have, so this is common. We deal with this from time to time. Customers who have maybe they've built their own software. It could be like inventory software, or maybe it's something old legacy software that doesn't really that someone's been tied to for 10, 15 years. It's definitely a tricky question. Depends on the system that you're integrating with. Sometimes if it's a more recent system, and you still have if it's something you built yourself, say it was a custom tool you built out, you still have access to source code, you still have the development team who built it. A lot of times they can go in and maybe add an API. And the nice thing about Zapier is anyone can integrate with Zapier. So if I go write an application, if I go build my own application, I can build out all of the facility for it to integrate with Zapier and basically have it listed on the Zapier store. So anyone who wants to integrate with my app could. So that's the nice thing about it is any system can be integrated into Zapier if it's a system you own and you want to build out. Now, if it was built by a third party and they don't support Zapier, you may need to work with them to get that integration done. But sometimes there's workarounds. Like if you have a system that has data in it that you need to extract, well, maybe you can't have that system integrate directly with Zapier, but maybe you could do something like export data via like CSV or something like that out of that system, and then have Zapier work off of that CSV. Maybe you're exporting that data into a Google Sheet, kind of like we're doing in this demo, and you can manage the data that way. So basically, there's a variety of ways you can kind of get around that. I think you have to kind of take it on a case-by-case basis, but the short answer is no, you are not dead in the water if you are using a system that doesn't work out of the box with Zapier. Sometimes you can modify that system or you can come up with like a slightly manual mode for integrating with that system and still be able to get some of the automation benefits out of Zapier, particularly when it comes to extracting data out of that tool and loading it into another tool that does work with Zapier. Like I said, importing or exporting a CSV would be an example like that. Cool, good question. Thank you. Let's see. Could I integrate Zapier with AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini? And how does that work? Yeah, I kind of mentioned that earlier, talking about that in the demo. Use a test case of like we could do something like that to do that integration. Definitely tools like Zapier work with AI tools like ChatGPT. There are some additional things you have to set up. Like I think you certainly have to have a paid subscription to most AI tools. Usually you need to have like API tokens, and there may be a cost associated with API requests. I think ChatGPT, you may need that. I think I remember something about you need to have like a dollar credit in your account on ChatGPT in order for Zapier to be able to do the integration and for them unlock the ability to do API calls to ChatGPT. So there are some things like that you need to keep in mind if you're looking at a solution like that. So just, as I said, keep that in mind. But yeah, the short answer is yes, you can definitely integrate with ChatGPT. Feel free to keep adding questions. I got a couple more questions here. I'll go through the see, but feel free to add any others if any of you have any questions. Let's see. What is the cost structure for Zapier? I would need it for me and a couple other team members. Okay, yeah, that's a good question because we recently went through this as a company. We were using Zapier on a limited basis. I mean, we had different employees using it. And we decided to migrate over to a team account. Concern was we're going to have to add multiple team members. What was the cost? And I believe the answer to this, you can go look at Zapier's documentation online. Just go to Zapier.com and look at their pricing. But I believe it's like $70 a month. And I can't remember if that's the prepaid, if you prepay for a year, or if that's the monthly rate. I think that's the prepay for a year. It might be like $90 a month if you don't prepay. I can't remember. But basically that gets you so many zaps. Like and a zap is anytime, or not zap, it's I guess it's a zap run. I forget what the term is they use within Zapier. I'm trying to look right now and see if I can tell. They call it. Yeah, zap runs. I think every zap run uses a credit. And I think for a month at like $80, $90 a month, you get like 1,500 zap runs credits that you can use. And then if you go over that, they charge you like maybe it's like a couple pennies per zap run or something. I don't know the pricing structure, but you can look at that. But basically team members are all free. So if you have a team of, 5, 10, 15 people and you want all of them to have access to Zapier, it's going to cost you that 80, $90 a month, regardless of whether you have one member or 10 members on your account, because it's really just charging for the number of zap runs that you do. But yeah, I think it's pretty cost effective, especially consider the time it saves and the development costs that it saves. Definitely a very, very good price point. And I think Make mentioned Make is kind of an alternative to Zapier. I think it's a little bit cheaper. We did look at that, but it doesn't integrate with nearly as many tools as Zapier does. Zapier is definitely the market leader in no code automation tools. So definitely probably would recommend Zapier to make your life easier. And they do have a free trial. I think even a free account you can use with limited access. So that's another option when you start testing it out. So another question, how do you handle updates and changes to systems when using a no-code platform? Um, I'm not sure if this means systems like a system that you're managing, like your own internal system, like custom system that you've built, or if you're talking about like third-party systems. So like, let's take an example, like from our demo, we had a Google Sheet that was set up. Like, so Google will update their Google Office, whatever you call it, platform from time to time, right? Like API endpoints change, integration endpoints change. Um, so as those things change, if I wrote a custom application that was going to log in to Google Sheets and extract some field from a spreadsheet, uh, and that was a custom app, and let's say Google decided to change the way you retrieve data from a Google Sheet, like the way you would make that call to extract that data through custom development coding, we'd have to go update that custom code to reflect that. Now, the nice thing about no code is they've got, literally hundreds of thousands, not millions of people using these integrations. And so they tend to stay on top of any changes that are coming up with these tools, these vendors like Google. And so they're ready for those changes that come down the pipe. So typically you don't have to do anything. It's just going to work seamlessly. And that's one of the nice things about using no code over custom. Like we love writing custom code. As a software developer, I love writing code, but you always have to think about scalability, maintainability, all these things. And the nice thing about no code is you don't really have to think about those things. No code kind of handles a lot of that for you. Now it is limited. We go back to that pros and cons thing I shared earlier. So there's definitely plenty of room for custom development, and we still, spend plenty of time, and large majority of our business is done by building custom apps and solutions for our customers. But we try to leverage no code as much as possible because um, we can focus on the more difficult tasks that really require custom development. We're good stewards of our customers' time and budget, and it makes the maintenance and support and the overall, longevity of whatever process we're automating or app we're building much better by using no code. Uh, so, that's kind of my short answer there is that there's really not much to worry about when it comes to no code when it comes to changes to those systems, if I'm understanding the question correctly. The only time maybe that comes up is if it's a system that's not widely used, or maybe like if I wrote my own app, let's say, and I integrated it with Zapier, and then I went and made changes to that app and I forgot to update with Zapier and you were using it, then, and so basically a small footprint, like a tool that's not used very widely on Zapier's platform. There are instances where it could break, but using things like Gmail, Google Sheets, that sort of thing, very little risk of having any kind of problems with changes breaking anything you're doing. So yeah, good question. Thank you for that. Let me see, get back to the questions list if there's any other questions. Anybody else have any other questions? We're right at the top of the hour, so this may be a good time to break if nobody else has anything. Okay, looks like we are good. Okay, well, that is about it. Let me, one last thing. I'm gonna share my screen one last time for the very end of this. Uh, this is some information on how to get in touch with me, kind of summarizing the special offer as well. So again, my name is Dustin. I put on here info at caffeineinteractive.com. You can also email Dustin at caffeineinteractive.com. I don't know why I put info there. I think I use this from an old slide deck. Here's our website address if you want to reach us. We've got contact us forms. We're a small company. I see almost everything that comes through. So if you want to reach out to us through our website, you can as well. I'll probably see it and respond. And again, that special offer, just be sure to send an email to me with the subject webinar offer 516, and I'll send you back a response, get you onboarded, and get going. So I really appreciate your time. We're right at an hour. If you have any follow-up questions, though, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to offer to answer questions offline or help you out if you're trying to get going on some of this. And definitely take advantage of the special offer. I think it's a great way to get yourself started with Zapier, to kind of have someone there to help you walk through it and learn a little bit about how this works and help automate your business. And this is a new webinar series we're starting. We're going to be doing some others on this and maybe get into some more things around Zapier, other no-code tools out there, maybe do some integrations with AI and just start presenting some of this. So I hope you'll all stay tuned for future webinars in this series because this is going to be something we'll be doing quite a bit more. So thank you all, and I hope everyone has a good rest of your day. Thanks.